Okay, let's talk about the team that is certain to become the Premier League darlings this season. That is newcomers Luton Town. Luton are one of England's older teams, founded back in 1885. They are based in Luton, which is about 30 miles north and northwest of London proper. They are known as the Hatters, based off of the fact that Luton, for centuries, has been renowned for making hats. Probably pretty quickly pick up on the nickname, seeing as in their badge, the hat is right at the middle, kind of old school flat-brimmed hat. This is the town crest from Luton. They just used the same for their badge. Traditionally, the club wore black and white as their home colors. They switched over to orange in the 70s, dropped back to the other colors, and in the last about 7 seasons, have been wearing this orange as their home color. You can see on the sleeves on this kit from 2019-20, made by Puma, you still have that black and white trim. That's a pretty good look. I expect there's going to be a lot of interest in this club for people that are foreigners, as well as people that like an underdog. They've come up to the Premier League for the first time ever in their history. This is going to be their first season in the top flight in England since 1992, the season before the Premier League was instated as that top flight league in England. So here are your things you need to know about Luton Town. The first thing is they have a small stadium, but it's a fun place to go. It's called Kenilworth Road. It currently fits about 10,000 spectators. It has to undergo a lot of renovation during the summer to come up to Premier League standards, and a lot of people are already talking about what it's going to be like to head there on an away day for their team playing against Luton in the Premier League. As you can see, it's pretty much set in between houses in people's backyards in the city. It's going to be a fun place for away fans to go. Even though it don't have a ton of space for them, it's still going to be a great away day because it's supposed to be an incredible atmosphere. While this is one of the smaller clubs to have made it to the Premier League, they do have a trophy of note to their name, having won the 1988 League Cup final against odds against Arsenal 3-2. And third, that the Hatters are kind of a yo-yo club. And a yo-yo club means that they've kind of gone up and down between different leagues throughout their history in their country. They've been through each of the 4 different tiers of the Football League, even dropping down to the 5th division, that being the division you may know that Wrexham have just come out of. They dropped down in 2009 after some financial misdealings and a crisis there, but their return to the Premier League this season makes them the first ever club to suffer successive relegations from one league down to the next, down to the other, all the way down to the 5th, to come all the way back up to the top flight in the Premier League. Probably one of the only things that's going to frustrate Hatters fans about moving to the Premier League this season is they won't be able to play their closest rival, that being Watford, seeing as they're still stuck down in the Championship. Let's talk about 2 former players, the first being James Justin, who, if you followed Leicester City, you know that he was purchased from Luton a couple years ago. Second, a potentially former player, that being Ethan Horvath, who was their goalkeeper last season on loan from Nottingham Forest. That loan has since ended, and they haven't brought him back yet, although I know they have interest in bringing him back. They're looking at additional other goalkeepers to see who's going to be their number 1 next season in the Premier League. 2 players to take a look at in their current squad, the first one being Carlton Morris. He's their striker. They bought him last season from Barnsley for their push to the Premier League, and he came up with a huge amount of goals to help them do so. And the second is a name you're going to hear from a lot of English media and media around the world because he's got a great claim to fame. His name is Pele Mpanzu, and he's a defensive midfielder for the club. He's been with them for a decade now, and he's the first ever player to go from the 5th tier of English football all the way to the 1st tier, the Premier League, with just 1 team. So that's your rundown on Luton Town, the newest members of the Premier League. They've been a little low-key since securing that spot. They haven't really signed any players yet. They haven't released their new kit, which I assume is going to go super fast. On top of all that, there's going to be tons and tons more talk about them in the coming weeks and months as the season gets going, including a connection with Manchester City, which we can talk about a little bit more. If you follow me on Threads, I'll have some more details. My final thoughts on Luton Town is it's going to be a really tall order for them to stick around in the Premier League this season. I hope they do it, but I know that their fans are just going to enjoy being in the top flight again for the first time in over 30 years.